Well, speaking of teams where everything went to shit, you know, the Orgs are a disgrace. The off-season moves were an absolute abomination. How about Fnatic, eh? Remember that old team? I know I'm old, Dom. I'm really old, right? Because I still remember when Fnatic used to make playoffs, you know. I remember when Reckless used to be a top player. I remember when they used to have MVP candidates. They even used to have junglers that seemed like they knew what they were doing. They used to have mid laners that won lane. Oh, man, I'm so itchy at this point in time. I got to connect with, like, the new era of lane. Oh, sorry, that's the last 3 weeks. My bad. Because, mate, the joke is, obviously, all those people were trying to counter our narratives about upset in the fucking playoffs last year, Dom. It's like, I rest my case. I fucking rest my... Mate, if he walked in tomorrow, you'd say, yes, of course you would. This is mental. Like, this team has looked so whack. Like, let's be real. What's funny is, they won so few games. They had a couple that were like throws, but if you see how they play, they're just a shit team. Like, they're the ones that deserve the throws. You know what I mean? Like, they were going to throw these games. Like, it's actually mental to me, like, as bad as the XL one is, because, like, here's the problem. Here's why this is worse. In a way, Fnatic is worse than XL, because the XL one was 5 players who hadn't played together. Look, obviously, I don't have the and fucking
no, they played together in like season 8. They played together.
Yeah,
5
exactly.
years ago. It matters. It actually matters.
But like,
for example.
But Fnatic kept the core. Brought in the Rooks guy that every fucker watching this stream now was like, because they love doing this at Worlds. If someone subs and you play a half decent and lost, they're like, he should be in the main team. Or like that Bean guy. You remember where he was signed to an LEC? Oh, he did it. He wasn't ever because no one wanted him.
I mean,
the Rooks guy's bust.
It got Evie a job. It got Evie a job within the LEC.
That's true.
So, you know,
yes.
The world hype is real, man. It carries people hard.
But the idea, like the joke of this team for real is this, Dom. If in the offseason I had a whiteboard and we're figuring out, like, Fnatic, right? Like, main problems in the team, best things about the team to keep. I'm not joking. My top 2 things to keep about the team go in this order. Upset as ADC, Yamato Cannon as coach. Because I've noticed the people who are never getting any shade for this performance is the coaching staff. Fnatic fans don't even seem to know that. Oh, you do, but I mean, Fnatic fans don't even seem to know they exist. Dude, they used to flame Yamato for winning series and giving Yumi over. Like, these motherfuckers look worse than any version of Fnatic ever. Way shitter version than last split. And they don't even have him to do, like, some interesting draft move or band-aid a player or do. They don't have any of that. So I think they've literally kept all the problems. Razork, Humanoid, non-existent synergy. Humanoid just genuinely doesn't look like he gives a flying fuck in the regular split. Like, Wonder literally is just capped. He can't play the game. He can't ever fucking flex a pick. He doesn't even get to carry half the time. It's a fucking joke. And then the Rooks guy, the joke is this. Yeah, he looked good in the first couple of games, right? All he is now is kind of a whack, like, fucking, like, Leona type player, right? You just gave away one of the best Leona type players of all time, and he's turned it around in Hylissang. Like, you failed on every. You know what? If I'm giving you marks, you get a fucking X on everything at the bottom. It just says "See me after class," and I'll beat the shit out of you. Well, no teacher would be able to say that. But if I was, good job, I'm not a teacher in him, anyways. You know, I'm not. So I never went the nice route. I just stayed on stream. So what do y'all guys take on Fnatic? Come on.
Go first, Dom, please.
I mean, I think it's really weird because what Reckless fans will do to you is they'll blame Rux, right? And if you try to push back, they'll say, oh, well, Rux was more of the problem than Reckless. But then they'll, like, ignore the part that Reckless was hyped up as one of the GOAT 80 carries. Like, he has a different standard of play than Rux. And that's
put a crowd on his head when he came back into the studios and bowed to him. They all bowed to him. Yeah. Like, it's not like we were overhyping him at all.
So yes, like, if you're gonna view them all as, like, equal players, and then we're like, who is more to blame, Rux or Reckless? Yes, the fact that Rux can't play meta champion seems like more of an issue than Reckless. But the fact that Reckless can't comp himself around Rux is also a huge issue. Like, you have options when you have an engaged support player. We've seen it in other regions. We've seen it with G2. When Mickey wants to play an engaged support, what do? They leave a Lucian Nami. They play Nautilus Draven. Like, you have Draven available. You have people playing Samira around the world. You have Kalista. That's an option. Like, you can play aggressive lanes if you think this guy is actually strong. So it's actually a problem on both fronts, which I think is being lost. If Reckless is truly a top tier GOAT 80 carry, like, he is actually a top 380 carry in the LEC right now, why can't he play the aggressive champions? Why can't he comp around his support, who is limited in his first split ever? Reckless is the one that's supposed to be good. He's the one that's been playing for years. He's the veteran. He's supposed to be able to be malleable. It's not there at all right now. So it's weird. Like, so they try to make you into a Reckless hater if you're just, like, commentating on the actual.
You're preaching now.
But think about this. how come when Perkz performs pretty decently, like he's an MVP candidate, he has a bad week, why does he get hard shit on every single time his team does nothing? But Reckless can like be in this team, but you can just blame this like rookie support. Like,
I'll tell you the real reason. Go on.
Everything could go to shit around Perkz.
Yep.
His whole team could be running it down, but if he doesn't win, it's like, he's the GOAT. Like, it just shows how fucking washed Perkz is.
Accountability threat in a Cloud9, like an actual threat.
You have the fucking accountability threat. Like, these are memes on my stream, but I actually think there is just like this weird bias in the LEC towards like certain players like Reckless, I guess because he's like humble and Perkz is cocky, so they don't really like the dynamic there. But in the LEC, I really, really hate like this way that they try to mind game you if you give any type of criticism to Reckless. Like, I think this was a bad split. I think he performed like a bottom 3 AD. And this Xayah pick, like, this makes no sense.
That's
the Xayah pick into Caitlyn Lux, it's never the right
blind
pick there.
By the way, no 1-2 blind. By the way,
it is a drama queen pick. It is, my support is so bad, I just need to self peel. Like, he's a human being, bro. He's a fucking like challenger level support player. Like, surely he can play something that's good at. You can play something around him, like he's going to do something good in the game at all. And when they had the kill angle, let's say you are playing the Xayah Leona, they had the kill angle in game. They had the kill, and Reckless fucked it up. He fucked up his flash. He autoed while the flash, or he flashed while the auto was on him. He died anyway, and then they lost their one timing to actually make something happen in the game. So I don't want to hear all this bullshit about, oh, no one wanted to play with Rux. There's this title that went on Reddit. There's like a hate thread. We're like, well, what does it mean that no one wants to play with Rux? Like, I'll tell you what it means. The other people, they'll say no one wanted to play with Rux, but they won't give you what the other options were for those players that didn't play with Rux, right? So here are the options. Upset could have played with Hilly. He wanted to play with Hilly, and he would rather play with Hilly than Rux. Hans could play in G2 with Mickey X, or he could play with Rux. Carzzy could play in Mad Lions with Hylissang, or he could play with Rux. Exakick would rather play with his ERL support, who he just won LFL with twice and went second in EU Masters, than play with another ERL player that he isn't comfortable with. Those are who the other people are picking over Rux, but they'll phrase it to be, oh, Rux is dog shit. No one wants to play with him. No, 3 of the players would rather just play with the 2 GOAT supports of EU. Big fucking whoop. This is the triggering thing to me when we have these types of discussions. It's so dishonest, and people twist it to just make it seem like as forgiving as possible to Reckless. But like he just got stuck with Rux because no one wanted to play with him, and he just wanted to play in LEC so bad that he ended up with this dog shit support. I hate it.
Yes. Well, one thing I would say on that one, I'll actually answer your rhetorical question. Like, on the Perkz side, I think it's obvious. It's just they think he's cocky and he's won a lot. So, like, the problem with being a fan is this: unless you're just a Perkz fan, the other angle that people take is like, right, well, if he succeeds that much, I hope he's a human and he still has failures and there's got to be something I could criticize so I could be above them. And the reason it's mad is this. Meanwhile, by the way, I'll tell you the Reckless one, because I figured this out half a decade ago, mate. The sad thing is, when they made all those arguments when he was like inarguably top 3, top 2 all the time, even if you didn't think he was number 1, it was actually a scenario where they were people, they had points, they had good points that they were making, and they could seem like they were just fans of good play. What I learned in the seasons where Reckless just played Kennen and just was a fucking diva, in the season where he had caps and he actually told his team, like, I'm going to play in a room over there because I don't want to be in the same room as you when we scrim, and you all scrim in here, and motherfuckers like Caps and like Soaz were on that team. When he was doing that shit, and I heard that behind. Here's the maddest thing: the joke is, you what?
Is it out? Is it public knowledge?
I outed that years ago. Yeah, I had Jez's come on and say it used to be.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was on the crackdown. Yeah.
So you can go back and watch that episode. Yeah. So what I would say is this: is if the joke is one, the modern day Reckless fan, bear in mind he hasn't been that good for a little while now, is mainly just a fan of Reckless. They are like a K-pop stan. They're a fan of him as a person. That's why it's all about like, but what about his feelings? And how do you think Reckless felt? It's I'm sorry, I have no empathy. I just don't view sports that way. Like I want to see like high level play. I want to see people play well. Like I don't, quite frankly, like I'm not the coach. I don't have to care if this guy's sad after the game, like the fact that that's what they're emphasizing tells me like they don't care about the play anymore. It's just about like, no matter what, they're going to support their player. And then the joke is, and this is why it's so perfect to contrast them with Perkz that you did there, Dom, is they're actually the inverted people in terms of what they do. Because publicly, Perkz is the cocky asshole who trash talks you and says you're all shit, but actually privately, he is a very compassionate person and he does care about his teammates and what goes on and keeping the environment and keeping a team unit together and not letting it fracture. Behind the scene, it's the opposite way. Reckless seems because he says nothing. By the way, watch out. Here's a pro tip for life. Watch out for people who say nothing and people say they're nice. That ain't the same as being good. good and actually saying good things. They're just not saying anything, and you just look by absence like, oh, can't be an asshole. No, this guy behind the scenes is the diva. He is the one who will have those. And by the way, I've had some mad disrespectful things he said to teammates or demands he's made of coaches and all the rest of it. Now, look, when he was on mega teams with some really good players, and he was a really good player, yes, he could win, because guess what? This is fucking sports. This is games. Like, it's not about how good you are as a human. If you have good enough players, you can overcome it. People know people like Forgiven and that were arseholes, but they could obviously be mega in the game. So my problem is that. It's like, I just think essentially, like, if people just don't know the real Reckless. And the joke is this, that's how I know their stands. Because they also, when I tell them all this stuff from behind the scenes, they don't want to know the real Reckless. And I know why. Because in their mind, they are like the 14-year-old and he's like the pop star. They have a version of Reckless in their mind that they've built up to be all these things. It's exactly like their fucking dream guy or some bullshit like that. So they don't want to hear me come along and go, oh, he's not like that at all. He's a bit of a diva, actually. You know, he's a bit of a tosser to that legendary player who played weak side for him. They don't want to hear that. That's why cognitive dissonance, they'll just attack you, the person. It's the famous thing, they kill the messenger. It's like, this is bad news. Why are you bringing me that? It's like, I didn't write the fucking message, did I? Like, all I do is deliver it to you.
From what we've seen in the last 2 years, I know Grabs is on like he's you know, he was part of 2021 G2, so he's not gonna go as hard as everyone else. But
no, you just get a beer in his hand. Oh, sorry, yeah. Say out loud.
I mean, you see what Yanko says on stream. Like, you can tell that, and the behind the scenes, you heard that Yankos didn't like playing with Reckless. Like, it was very obvious that
the good news about Yankos is Yankos doesn't really have a filter, so he can't really stop it getting out. It was going to bleed out, of course.
Yeah. So obviously there was issues within G2, and people did not feel comfortable playing with Reckless in G2. And then in 2022, his former coach from last year is taking like slights at him, shots at him on Twitter as well. Like, I don't know if everyone else is fucked up. Maybe everyone else is fucked up, but you hear 2017 teammates say that there are issues. You see teammates that were there in 2021. Selfmade even like said on like a stream, he's like, yeah, in 2020 there was issues with him as a person. Like, you have so much evidence from people, so many people that have worked with him, different people that have different motives. They all align and say the similar things. Like, at some point there is an issue with how he personally behaves within a team. People don't fuck with it. They don't like it. They think it's ego driven. There is some issue that people consistently have with how he behaves in a team environment. Evidence is there.
Oh, and the last thing to say is this. Another reason why it doesn't tend to come out, though, I'll give you a fucked up example. And obviously, Reckless has done nothing comparable to what I've heard Reginald's done to employees and stuff. But I'll use the same example. The reason I think the Reggie stories didn't come out, except for people like me who were labelled as haters, is because they actually viewed TSM as like the lifeblood of the fucking LCS. So nobody wanted those stories to come out, Dom. The premise there is, even if you're like CLG and you hate TSM, you don't want TSM to fall and Reggie to be like, these are key figures you need. I think the perception in Europe was, we need Reckless. Like, he's the only name that's been there the whole time. He was the face of the league until the G2 era. So, do you have anything to say on this topic, Grabs? Are you going to just keep it? You doing a good job doing, like I said before, just keep it down, see if you just...
Yeah, we're kind of hard there.
Oh, 1 minute ago? Okay, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. He has not been my favorite player to coach ever. That's what I can say. He did not fit in with how the culture in G2 was. And we knew that beforehand, right? Like, he was not the first option. He wasn't the first option for Fnatic either. That is just truth, right?
Yes.
He is not the Antichrist. He is not a nuclear bomb on his own. It's just that, as many players are, he can be very stubborn, and his reactions to things happening the way he didn't intend to are a bit more toxic, I would say, than other players would do.
They're not upfront toxic, is what people's like. It's not like he's like, fuck you guys. Like, it's like the slight.
Like, I mean, the joke is he is Swedish. So it's just passive aggressive. It's not.
Perkz will scream at you. Like, Perkz will be in your face, right, and telling you what dog shit you are. I've been through that shit many times. Reckless will not do that, right?
Wait a minute, I can roll that back. I know you, Dom, you were thinking the same thing. Here's the thing, right? It's one thing to say that to. It's one thing if he said that to Mickey sometimes. You go, yeah, he said that to me many times. It's actual coach. Like, you're just dog shit. It's like, all right, agree to disagree.
But for me, like, that's self-respect, right? I come from sports and football, right?
What a chat this guy is, though. Hey, coach, you're fucking shit. Anyway, next script.
But he also knew he can do it with me, right? So I think that also like goes both ways.
I love it, though.
So how do I say this? Because the thing is, I can't count an accurate picture because they have 100,000 people, 50 who hate him, 50 who love him. And whatever I say, because I worked with him, will somehow get...
true. Yes. It's ammunition.
Against me, right? So I have to be really careful how I say it. Again, I think the best way I can say it is he did not fit into the structure G2 was. He did not fit into the culture we had as a team and how we saw playing as a team. It was a risk we took. We know the risk. We knew it beforehand. It just was a bit worse than we thought towards the end, where the entire aura of us being unbeatable was gone towards the end, right? My players were nervous going on stage for best of 5, which I've never seen before. Especially like the summer against Matt, we were the best team in scrims. When we didn't go to Worlds, we go on stage, and I could just see like panic in the eyes of players, which I never saw before because we just went G2. We were like, it doesn't matter if we go down 0-2, we win anyways, right? That's not how it felt like after. It was not only on him, right? Obviously,
sure.
He's not someone who lifts the mood up, right?
Yep.
So he doesn't like actively destroy it, but it also doesn't help make it better.
Yes. Here's how I would describe it. This might be harsh. These are my words, not yours. I would say from hearing all his teammates that the team plays down to whatever Reckless's level and vibe is. So if the team's amazing and it's like all really good players and everything, then it's no problem. You're just going to win. But as you're saying, it's not the guy that like, as I said, when it's breaking apart, I do think Perkz is the guy who'll just be like, look, maybe I'll pick this or you pick that. You know, go on.
One thing that's really important to say as well is that because we have to talk about also what happens around Reckless, because the management, as far as I know, also plays into that because Reckless is so big. Yep. That means Reckless might just make an assumption or say, hey, this could be a good idea, means it completely in a good spirit. And management, yes, sir, you're valued so much, we do what you want. Yep. I remember, and as a coach, and just to preface it, you have to sell what the team wants to do, right? You can't just be openly against it. So Reckless comes in, tells to my manager back then, and management itself, what about we have office hours together in the same room, we play together, solo queue, whatever, right? In itself, it's a nice idea. Yeah. Right? Nothing wrong with that.
It's fine.
I said, oh, this is not going to work for my players. I know them for 3 years. Youngest wants to stream. Wonder wants to chill, which is fine because he puts in all the energy in scrims. And management, no, we're enforcing this now. You have to sit until 10 p.m. in the same room, only playing League or talking about League. And like, guys, this is a bad idea. And management is like, no, you do this now. I'm like, hey guys, wonderful new idea, right? And so this is something that even if Reckless didn't want it to happen, just because he has this big status, makes it worse, right? Because he's like this golden, how is German is, he lays golden eggs. I'm not sure if the same idiom is
the golden goose.
Oh yeah, whatever, yeah. So
think of him like he's the most important thing you can't get rid of because it lays the golden eggs.
So,
exactly. I've heard the same thing that in Fnatic management was also kind of babying him for many years, man.
Yeah, and that's something he doesn't want probably, right? So to give him credit, and I say it again, like he was not easy to work with. Many players are not, but he also has to think twice about everything he does because it just has way more weight on whatever happens, right?
Right.
So I think that's also why you always get only the PR answers he does, right? He never says anything bad because if Reckless knows, if I say this guy isn't good, his fans will eat the person alive, right? There will be nothing left. So yeah, he's not easy to work with. I can see why he played into the bad environment of Thunder Cat. He played into the worst environment we had in G2. He for sure was part of the reason, a bigger part as well. But it's not because of maliciousness or anything. But yeah, there are some aspects of his character that are not great in the team. That being said, though, Fnatic had many players like this, and as we mentioned before, just to say, the roster last year, I wouldn't have touched with the longest tick in the world. Like Yamato managed to go through it without people killing each other.
Yep.
When I saw that roster, I thought like someone will die, like someone will get stabbed when he's sleeping or something. I was sure of it.
Yep.
Really, that roster, the Wonder, Razor, Humanoid, Hilly upset roster, you thought it would be that bad?
Yes. Like character-wise, they did not fit, I think.
Okay.
This way, if you notice, there's a reason why on 2 years where they didn't win anything, I always big up fucking Youngbuck for the year he was there with the Nemesis Reckless one, and I always big up Yamato Cannon for last year, even though he failed with because if you know behind the scenes, like the joke is these teams should never even have been at Worlds, never at playoffs, like never have a chance at going to a final. Like they should all have collapsed and gone out like first, second round playoffs for real. Like if you know the dis-synergies, like that's why sometimes even from the outside, if you just know a few stories, you just know sometimes a coach did work miracles.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't even mean that the players mean something maliciously.
No.
You just know how they think and how they talk to each other.
Yes.
And players, I mean, let's be honest, are not mature in the head very often, right? They are in their head still 15. That means you can't argue with them like with adults. Yep. There will be an argument. Both take it the worst way possible. So if you have players who argue a lot and are stubborn, you have more arguments and they all just hate each other because they can't see eye to eye. So the players don't mean it maliciously. They might be nice guys. They might be especially they might work in other environments. But that roster last year, I was like, holy moly, Yamato. You don't know where you put yourself into. And I think for that, he did a really fucking good job. Just saying.
Yes. That's why actually the joke is this. People have missed this one. You know, Dom, in the past, I think it was even on the Crackdown, we did like an episode where like Perkz was like defending Reckless and even implying like he'd want to play. No, he was saying like Reckless was the best AD or something. And I said something like, so you would want to play with him. If I go into your head now, you have to pick your team. Reckless is your ADC and you go into Worlds. You're going to win Worlds, right? And he basically even quickly like backed off a little bit like, oh, well, maybe the circumstances, like he tried to do one of those, right? And the joke is, I actually think I missed something there, which is when everyone talks about Perkz was replaced by Reckless and the influence different on G2. I actually do think Perkz, the mid laner, might be one of the few players who could maybe fix Reckless in that regard. I think A, Reckless would respect him, and B, Perkz definitely is not afraid to just be like, get your shit together or go to the management. Yeah. You're not just taking his side and do all that. Because I actually also think you made a very shrewd point there, which Reckless fans are going to miss and they're going to hate on your grabs. Which you made a very actually key point there, which is if you are Reckless, you are also in a scenario like you say. It's like if you're the celebrity and you have your entourage, you can't have an opinion, because if you just throw like a random one out that you haven't thought about a lot, like I think he's going to win, everyone, no, totally, me too, yeah, well, we all do, of course, yeah, he's definitely going to win, you know what I mean? Like everyone's going to overreact to what you say, so it is also going to be tricky yourself to like even just be part of a group dynamic. Like even Reckless, as much as he might be a prince, sometimes he wants someone to go, no, I don't agree with that, and go, phew, I actually didn't know if that was a good idea or not. You don't want it every time, like, yeah, we're doing what he says. It's exactly, that also is going to make you fucking close up a little bit. You're not going to feel the same vibe. And that was a pretty fair sort of defense or other context you put in there. Fair play. I mean, so basically Perkz is the Giga Chad who I think could fucking, make Stacey get in line.
Because Perkz is the management, right? Very often.
Yeah.
That's just Perkz.
Put it this way. Are you ready? Perkz is such a fucking man that he would actually get Reckless playing well again. You know why? Because he'd say, obviously, I'll let you cook. I carefully phrased that so you didn't get your Twitch banned. Yeah. I was very careful how I did that, so it's all right. It's a bit too subtle for some.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think that people just take it the wrong way. Number one, the reason why people talk about him is because he's the most popular player on the team, right? Like, I don't think that he was like complete dog shit, but I definitely think that he looked not as good. He definitely had issues.
Oh, can I please say, oh God, please. For his fans, having perfect CS and playing behind your tower does not mean you played well. Playing well means playing to the maximum pressure you can put on the map. And this is not what he does, and he never did actually. He was really good at having his team suck up pressure early, and then he's impossible to kill. Like, he's actually not killable. And he does damage, right? But in games they lose, where he's like, but Reckless didn't int. Him not pushing can be int, by the way.
Yes.
Because then Razok has to want to... Okay, sorry for ranting, right? But I watched this on stream as well. The game where, Razok died on Vi against Trundle, no excuse, right? Even level 3, he can't go there even level 3, right? He can't.
Yep.
But I thought, this invade could be hard because invading Gromp as a jungler is really hard because the enemy support can be the faster, right? That's a fact. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen that a level 2 push can be like 8 minions full HP on the tower. That means Rooks had to wait until 3 minions die to hit level 2. So Nami level 2 ran all the way to the jungle while Rooks was like, please, man, please, I need to. I've never seen it before, that the wave just doesn't get touched at all. Like this, right? So this is also part of the issue. So you can't sit there and say, he has 0-0-0, he didn't end the game. No, him not playing aggressively can also be inting.
Yes. Oh, by the way, there's the other thing I want to say. I said it to Dom last week, but I'll just quickly reiterate so people understand. Reckless was the best at what he did. Everything Grabs just described there. He would survive in lane, doesn't matter what it is. He's always going to CS 1v2 if Hylissang roams. Like, he's never going to be super pressuring, like Forgiven or whatever. That's not his style. He's the other type of player. But when you get to the team fight and you have really good solos and a decent jungler, he is going to, you'll never get to him. He will do all the damage. He'll get all the kills. Yep. That's why he has all the pentakills. The problem I have is this. He didn't even do that this season. Like, even this season, he wasn't that good at weak side. And even this season, he wasn't that good in the team fights. He would play a little bit too scared. Like, the joke is, I've always said this. I always say, Dom, how if you come in the league and you have a name like Nuclear Int or Irrelevant, like, you better be amazing or your name will make you a meme. The way you know Reckless wasn't a meme is because even though he played that style, his fucking name is Reckless and he's the AD carry. Like, he actually lives up to his name now. Although, I will say, that's the one thing I always appreciate about Loco Doco. He's such an idiot, he even still to the end called him Reckles in, like, fucking season 9. Just a random shot to Loco there. Whatever.
Okay, Loco Doco's such an idiot.
I know there's not really a segue there. Just thought I'd throw that in there in case he's watching. He's probably broken out because of all the crypto shit, but
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Man, I told you fucking clean your act up, idiot. You could have been doing the show with me. Instead I've got Dom here. And he used to insult me in season 4. Whatever. People don't know about the old lore, Dom. They don't know the OG.
Yeah,
the
they don't
beefs
know.
No, they don't know at all. They don't at all. Right, I think we move on then. Because here's the thing. There's not much more to say about Fnatic, is there? The only thing is this. Unlike the other teams, like, people are saying like about XL, maybe they do all this, that, the other. Beyond maybe, even then, personally, the reason why I don't think Abadage comes in is because it's Vethio. Like, you didn't sign him to just kick him after 3 weeks. You got to figure out how to work it out. So I think actually, if you know where XL's at, I don't think personally they are going to make like crazy changes. I think they'll probably try and work on it. Fnatic should. And if we're real, like with some of the players they have, I think they have to make at least one change. So my question would be, purely speculation, hypothetical, what change would you two make? What would you make to try and turn this around? Because it's not like all the parts are bad. Like you were saying, this is another team with good players. Like beyond the Rooks guy, every player could be good in theory. So what would you change, Dom?
I'm changing jungle.
Really?
Which, to be fair, they did try to do. Apparently they wanted El Yoya to or something, so.
Yep. I mean, that's it. That's all I got. Just change jungle. That's how it is. Like, I mean, I feel like it sucks, but that's part of like being a jungler. Like if you can't play around, they're just going to find somebody who can take a different approach.
But how do you play around 3 losing lanes every game? That's the thing, right? Not losing, not pushing lanes. I think I'm not gonna say Razak played necessarily well, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say he did what he could. But I think every game you start play the game, it was from deficit every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just get a jungler who's less prone to int. So then, like, yeah.
So if you by miracle get through the game early, you can win. I guess that's fair.
I mean, I think that's literally like what you're left with, unless you're like, I think if you're only making one change, you're changing that. But if you're making
but then you excel again, right? That's the same thing.
Well, I mean, I guess you have to change support too. I mean, you're changing one bot, one jungle. You have to change support to make Reckless happier in lane. You have to get him somebody who he's comfortable playing with. You probably have to make 2 changes at the minimum. But I mean, I would like to see multiple changes. Like, I mean, I would like to see almost everyone changed from this roster. Like, I mean, who are you keeping together? Like, you have to break up the bot lane and you have to break up the mid jungle. So you have to replace it at minimum one from the bot lane, either mid or jungle. But who are you going to get that's actually better than these players?
I think you should think of like what is the strongest 3v3 jungle mid support you can get, right? And by that you decide. I'm not quite sure what's on the market. I mean, you couldn't have someone like Treats who will be like playing Alistair, Rakan, Leona, and just go mid. Beepo could work, I guess.
Ooh, before jungle swap, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, he just doesn't want to play apparently, right? Like he wants to.
What? Oh, I thought he wanted to.
Well, no, he doesn't want to play in EU.
Oh, okay.
I mean, to be fair, there's no space on the coaching staff for his girlfriend, so. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, did I do that again? Shit, my bad. Oh. I don't give a fuck, mate. You know me. I just don't give a fuck.
I agree with Dom in the way that I don't think there's one change you can make that would magically fix this. Unless you actually get to, like, Wonder or Reckless change their approach in terms of, like, taking the responsibility and trying to carry early or trying to make pressure early. It's the same for Excel, right? If Reckless or Wonder says, okay, I'm willing to actually counter pick and try to pressure to my maximum, then this team can be fixed, actually. Because as much as Humanoid agrees also, Humanoid had the same thing as set of Excel, where he's like, my bot will not win, my top is not getting tank, I have to do something, kind of, right?
Yes.
So, at least that's how I feel from outside. So I think, yeah, one change is really hard unless you get Wonder or Reckless to change that way. Even better if both can like do it like swapping, like one day I carry, one day you carry, then it's perfect, right? But if they both are more comfortable just waiting a bit, and I know for a fact Wonder could do it, so I'm not sure. I don't think that he doesn't want to. I think something else in the team is so wrong that he doesn't feel comfortable doing it. I mean, last year I can see it because we had Upset Bot, right, who is really fucking good playing from ahead, but also wants resources and uses them really well.
Yep.
So as Wonder, there's no reason why you would change that.
Yes. So
I'm not sure what happened this split, if there was any other reason.
I mean,
but that's the Wonder I know, right? I'm also very biased. I know that, right?
Sure.
Maybe 2 years after G2 he's just washed, but I don't think that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like he's washed. I mean, obviously he like dies sometimes where he shouldn't, but I mean, that's pretty consistent to how he was in G2, to be honest. Like he would have some like int deaths every now and then as well. He just couldn't recover from it and still be useful in the game. So that's why you want him. I mean, I have a feeling that what they're going to end up doing is just like doing the upset Reckless experiment, because upset, like Reckless just has to be in the team, right? Like that they're going to give him more than just 3 weeks.
They're
So
going to boot him, exactly.
yeah. So I mean, he's probably just going on support duty, and we're getting reckless support in a in a Nautilus Leona meta, I guess.
But here's the problem. I know for the memes, everyone on Reddit's like, upset Reckless. I will just go ahead and say I would very, very, very strongly expect that never to happen. I don't think Upset's coming back to this Fnatic team, mate. I just don't think it's happening unless they made like crazy changes across the board. So even though that's a fun one to speculate, I don't think people understand. Like I said, it was Upset's choice to be in Fnatic or not. And as far as I know, the real reason is he didn't believe in this team. And spoiler, he fucking read the room correctly on this one, didn't he? Like, he knew this team couldn't work. So he's done the thing that people do occasionally, which is he just thought, why the fuck play and I get the blame again when I look good on a bad team? I'll just sit out and wait till I get my chance to be on a good team again. So even though that's a fun angle for people, I don't think it's happening. All I'll say is this, even though it's mad controversial, I actually think the player I might replace, look, I'd obviously replace Rox if there was a really good player available, but the other player is Humanoid, and I have to say it. Because first of all, they're not going to be any playoffs with this team. So there's no I get the playoff buff. There's no playoff, but okay, Ahmed, shut the fuck up. Then the other thing is this. I actually also just hate his attitude in the game. I've always said this. It's cool to be Expecke and party on Friday night and Saturday night and play on Saturday and Sunday when you then do carry all the playoff series and you are a fucking Chad. That's because we're like, you're so talented. You did it in spite of that. When Humanoid does that and fucks it up and then just messes up, doesn't even win championships, looks like, whatever, we lost the series. We're even losing to they were supposed to beat Rogue and be in the last final even, but they didn't do that. Then at Worlds, it's like, I have one good game, I have one shit game. What our problem with this player is this. I hate players where it's just their thing. I don't really try in the regular season. Regular season is what gets you the seed to make playoffs easier. The other reason Expecke was a fucking legend is because if he fucked around in a season, he could still win that super hard semi that shouldn't have been, should be on the other side of the bracket, but you have to play the other best team in the semi. He's just such a stud, he would beat them. Humanoid's the player where it's like, mate, I can't have you just essentially turn up a quarter of the time. I'm building the whole team around you. You're my superstar player. I want you to be a fucking legend. So even though it's controversial, because I don't think you can get anyone better right now, I would just take a stable mid laner. Because here's the thing, give me a stable farming mid laner. I bet Razork's twice as good. At that point in time, Reckless can probably get through. I think it fixes so much of the team, in my opinion.
It's time. They got to switch Vedio. Vedio has to come in and join Fnatic. You have the Vedio Razor combo again. That
would be a wild trade if you traded between XL, Humanoid, and Vedio. Not least because it's listen, Humanoid, we're going to send you to hell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would also just actually improve both teams. I feel like both of them need a change of environment. The problem that you have with Humanoid is you just know if you're Fnatic, the second you kick him from the team, that will give him the motivation to be the best again. He'll just start fucking smurfing.
I know what you mean, but here's the thing, Dom. I've always hated that angle.
You think he's bad?
I've seen stories like this online. There's always these stories that go like this, Dom. My wife, I used to weigh 500 pounds, so my wife left with the kids, and I got really motivated. I'm in the gym. Look what she's missing now. It's by your own logic, you never would have done that if she'd have stayed. So shouldn't you be thanking her about that? You know what I mean? I agree. Even though I know what you mean, you can't think that way if you're the gym. You've got to just kick him and go, fuck off.
This only works if you get kicked unfairly, like Torin. Then this could work. But if you get kicked because
he really showed Koi with his performances this split.
He was the best player of XL.
I think he was. No, the joke I would have is this, is actually the Fly guy did show me that he could do more than I thought, because now he's able to fuck up the careers of 6 players at the same time, and one's not even on his team. So that fucking takes talent, mate. Most people can only fuck up the 5 that are in their team. Bloody hell. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.